Okay, here we are, Misty Island Rescue. I cannot describe the hate towards this special. People seem to despise it, and while I definitely agree with all aspects that fans hate about it, I don't think it's quite as bad as people put it out to be. Heck, it's not even my least favorite special. But let's waste no more time and look at Misty Island Rescue. What's the story? A search and rescue center is being built out of Joby wood. However, Diesel has an accident with the Joby wood, and Thomas saves him from falling off a cliff. For his brave efforts, Thomas is rewarded with a trip to the mainland. However, on the way, the raft he is on is separated from the boat. Why they didn't just actually wait for another boat, I have no idea. Well, anyway, Thomas floats away to an island called Misty Island. His raft happens to get aligned with the tracks, and he discovers that the island is a complete anarchy. There are 3 logging locomotives named Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand, who would become the most hated characters ever. Thomas must find a way to get back to Sodor, and meanwhile, the Fat Controller is desperately looking for him. I'll begin with the bad stuff first, for a change, because there's a lot of it. So what is the worst thing about Misty Island Rescue? The answer is simple. The rhyming dialogue. Oh my freaking god! It's fucking torture! Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mind rhyming if it's done occasionally. It's worked really well in the past, like the first lines of Sad Story of Henry and whenever the trucks tease engines. But if you use it constantly, you will drive someone to commit suicide. Even as a little kid, I would have blowtorched the DVD. I actually counted how many times it rhymed. And you know how many times it does? 51. That's right, 51 times in 60 minutes. 51 is 85% of 60 people. Congratulations, you f***ed up big time. Another thing that really pissed me off was the fact that, well, Thomas could have easily been put on another boat rather than being trailed behind on a raft. Therefore, none of the damn stuff would have happened. And no, it's not a nitpick. Gordon, Edward, and James were on a boat to rescue him. God damn it, Miller! Remember when I said in my Magic Railroad review that the fact that Thomas could just go through the magic buffers, yet Mr. Conductor couldn't? Well, this plot hole is worse. I mean, Jesus Christ! I could assure you tugging a 10-ton locomotive on a wooden haft behind a boat goes against so many safety regulations. I mean, it's like tying a passenger to the wing of an airplane. Think, you goddamn morons! Oh, there was no room in the boat, people now tell me. Well, that makes no excuse. Sir Topham Hatt should have just reserved a space for Thomas, or at least not let him go on the raft. Okay, enough ranting about that, but that really pissed me off. Another thing I noticed was how the engines are doing their jobs completely out of place. Normally I wouldn't mind if it's a small error, but I couldn't believe that Gordon was pulling trucks in a quarry with Toby. And for one that thinks picking on railway realism is just plain stupid, that is saying something really bad. Same thing could be said about the Fat Controller sending Gordon on the boat to Misty Island. Yeah, Gordon never seems to be pulling the express anymore. The final flaw I'll point out, though not as big as the others, is the complete anarchy of Misty Island. I mean, there are several instances in the new series where there are no drivers, but this is probably the worst. How the hell can this society exist without humans? I mean, being as idiotic as they are, I think the logging locos would have completely destroyed the island and themselves by now. I'll talk about the logging locos now. Good God, people loathe these guys. I just can't say how much they're despised. Well, here's my opinion. While I do think they are pretty despicable later on in the show, they weren't actually as bad in Misty Island. They actually weren't that bad in Misty Island Rescue. They are moronic doofuses, but I didn't think they were contemptible as they were in the TV series, especially the 15th season. Bash and Dash are obviously rip-offs of Bill and Ben, but I think their design is pretty cool. Same can be said for Ferdinand. People always say that him saying, "That's right," all the time was excruciating, but I actually thought it was kinda cute. That is, of course, only in the special, but I didn't see anything wrong with it. I will also give them credit for giving him a very unique name. Out of all the names, Ferdinand is one of those you would not expect from Thomas. Yeah, others include Samson and Bell. For some reason, the logging locos remind me of rednecks. I don't know if that was the intention, but I thought I'd point that out. Anyway, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there's this railway up in the Santa Cruz Mountains called Roaring Camp Railroad. The engines here are all logging locos, so Bash Dash and especially Ferdinand did remind me of childhood memories of riding that railway. Speaking of logging and railways, while the engines themselves were half-assed, Misty Island looks really cool. Again, it reminds me of the railway in Santa Cruz Mountains. The trees and logging equipment make it feel like something from the Gold Rush. As far as Old Wheezy and Hee Haw, I don't consider them to be actual live characters, so I don't think much of them. They do get a few laughs, though. So what does work about Misty Island Rescue? Well, to be honest, there actually is a lot of good stuff. Number one is the overall story. It's pretty epic and would still be if it was made back in like season 5. I think it's a really unique idea to have Thomas in basically a different world. Speaking of epicness, another great thing that many will agree is the music. This is some of the best music in the Thomas TV show in general. I mean, just listen to the opening theme. It's freaking awesome, even if it is kind of similar to Pirates of the Caribbean. The ending song was catchy too. The cowboy style really fits the atmosphere of Misty Island. Another thing I liked was the addition of Whiff. He's not Boko or Duke, but that was a pretty unique choice for the role. As far as new characters, well, like I said before, logging locos are annoying, but at least here they're watchable. As for Captain, well, the character itself is okay. His design is cool, and it's great we get to see another boat again, but we hardly ever see him after this special. I think he's only had like 3 lines since 2011. They could have developed him a bit more. And also, I gotta say that this special does have some emotion to it. You could feel how worried the Fat Controller was. You normally see him as a stern guy, but here he basically does anything to find Thomas. I really love that quote at the end where he loses his hat and says, "I can get another hat, but I can't get another Thomas." That was a great quote. So in conclusion, what's my opinion of Misty Island Rescue? Well, watching it again made me realize that the dialogue is really the only excruciating thing about it. Had it not been for the rhyming, this could have been pure gold. But unfortunately, the dialogue did get to points where it was really hard to watch. So I think Misty Island Rescue was, well, a tragedy. It had so much potential, but the dialogue just ruined it. However, I still enjoy it somewhat. If you were to look over the dialogue, which may be extremely difficult, you'd be pretty satisfied. I'll give it a C+. It's got really bad stuff, but good stuff often does overpower it.